We have started to record the first session of SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session. Welcome. It is Wednesday, May 31st, 2023. A reminder at the outset that we have 3 class periods this week: Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And what I'm going to be doing today and tomorrow is to primarily go through the syllabus, give you video examples of what people have done in my courses over the past few years through YouTube and other types of venues. But I think for all of you, it's really important, and I was mentioning this to those of you who are here with me live this afternoon, that you guys primarily grew up in the social media era. You FaceTime every day, you're doing stuff on TikTok, you're doing something on Instagram. So a more formalized version of what you're doing all the time through a social media venue is going to be quite appropriate for a class like this. I think also it's really important for all of you to remember that being a quality extemporaneous speaker, being able to communicate with the camera, being honest in a setting in which you feel relatively comfortable. This is my living room. Hopefully is going to be something with which you feel very comfortable over the next 5 weeks. It goes by very quickly. We've got 19 class sessions over the next 5 weeks. A reminder before we go to Blackboard, and I have it in the student preview mode, that it is not a requirement to be here live. All of the videos are going to be available for you at the end of the day. I will probably be here for a minimum of 1 hour every day. Then you can go back and watch the video clips. You can go to my website. You can go to my social media feed. You can go to anything that you think is appropriate to help you for the 4 presentations that are going to be coming up shortly. So before we go any further, because this is an online course, because we're meeting virtually, one thing that I think is important for you to remember is how you can access data on Blackboard. And that's what I'm going to do at the outset. We'll get to the syllabus, we'll talk about course requirements, but just the nuts and bolts of how you can go to the website, get all different kinds of information that ideally is going to maximize your ability in a public speaking course online in terms of content, delivery, and visuals is going to be very important. I'll talk about my background in mass communication and public speaking in just a couple of minutes. But the first thing I want to show all of you is the student preview mode on Blackboard. This is what you see whenever you enter the course. From this vantage point, once you have entered the course, the first thing that you need to do is to click on my announcements. And as you can see, I try to be really specific because most of the people in this course, and as of last night, the count on Campus Connect was 21. Most people are going to be watching these videos after the fact, but this is the first thing that you're going to do when you're at the website. Week 1, May 31st to June 2nd, 2023. Now again, guys, Friday of this week is the only Friday that we meet. Starting next week, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for the final 16 course periods of the first summer session. Week 1, May 31st to June 2nd, 2023. Enter the course live or view recorded archives. Please read. SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, live on Blackboard, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. Enter a course to attend live. Go to course syllabus, click on course room to enter. Please mute your microphones and leave them off unless otherwise specified. You may enter up to 15 minutes before the start time. Even though I say 1 to 3 o'clock, realistically, I'll never start recording at 1 o'clock. I've got the 1 to 3 o'clock window. On the days in which we have graded speeches, Wednesday and Thursday, starting next week and the other 3 weeks of the term, on those 8 days, our class periods are going to run a little bit longer because I'm going to be playing your videos in class. And I'll talk about how you can send those to me. But primarily, you're going to be communicating through my Yahoo email address, not my SAU email address. I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. It is not a requirement to attend live. We are here to provide assistance and answer questions. View all recorded archives at your convenience for research purposes and complete your assignments on time. Thanks. How to view recorded archives of this course. Find Tools on your menu, left side, and click Class Collaborate Ultra. Once there, click 3 vertical white lines on the black sessions bar to open a recordings playlist. And usually what I do is at the beginning of each class session, I will go back and show bits and pieces of the previous class session to show you how easy it is to access the information on Blackboard. Now, again, you see the gold bar on top because I have this in the student preview mode. The professor's mode looks a little bit different, but I wanted to put this in a venue with which you could easily understand. So from this point, you click on the course and go to instructor information. This is a link to the SAU Mass Communication website. Again, I am a mass communication person. I've taught courses in mass communication, mass media, public speaking, broadcast journalism for a long time. And I feel very comfortable in front of a camera or behind a microphone. As I'd indicated at the outset, because you grew up with social media, most of you are going to be that way too. And as I also indicated, it's a more formalized style of speaking for my course. And there is my business card, my contact information, but realistically, most of the time, and I'll show you this on the syllabus, you're going to be contacting me through my SAU email address on occasion, but most of the time through Yahoo. Again, in the student preview mode, here's the course syllabus. If you ever want to join the class live, and I have about a half dozen of you now, this is the way to do it. The checklist, the SAU speech critique, which we'll get to, the course speech schedule, which we'll also get to. This is our course itinerary. What's going to be taking place for the next 5 weeks. And I'm going to try to work it in such a way that all of our class sessions can be seen. And there we get to June 29, which is the last day of the term. But as you can see, what we're going to be doing today is the first part of course requirements. Tomorrow, Thursday, the second part of course requirements. And then on Friday, as you can see, our only day that we meet on Friday, I'm going to go through the SAU speech critique in terms of effective content, delivery, and visuals. It's really important, as I'd indicated before we started to record, that you understand the importance of being a quality extemporaneous speaker. I don't have notes in front of me. All I have is the computer screen, but I've been doing this for a long time. When I was in graduate school at UNLV, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, my best friend and I were graduate assistants, but also were coaches of the debate team. And in that time, we won more than 150 awards in debate and individual events and won a national award for being the top-ranked first-year debate program in the country. UNLV was first, Florida State University was second, and my alma mater, North Dakota State University, was third. So when it comes to public speaking media, I feel very comfortable about this, and I want all of you to do well and to succeed. But that's what we're going to be doing, course requirements today and tomorrow, and looking at effective content, delivery, and visuals on Friday. Now, from this point, again, we'll get to the syllabus in just a moment. But if you click on the Tools area of the menu, in the student preview mode, you come across this, Class Collaborate Ultra. And when you click on this, as I'd indicated, right now, what you see is a course in progress. When you are looking at the announcement section, remember, if you want to check on a recording, go to these 3 vertical bars, click on the menu, and then go to recordings. There's nothing here because today is the first day of the first summer session. So again, click on Tools, Class Collaborate Ultra. Those are the sessions coming up that we'll be recording this week and next. Click on Recordings, and you'll be able to watch what we're doing now and all of our 19 class sessions. And the list is going to be, I think it shows up in reverse chronological order, but that's where you're going to access all of the information. it's really important that you watch the recording, which is why I went to it twice, to reinforce how you can improve in terms of being on camera. And oftentimes what I'll do during these courses is take video that you or your cohorts from years gone by have produced. One of the things that I often do is to turn the microphone down intentionally or turn the audio down. How are you coming across on camera? All of that really does matter. So now let's go back to Blackboard. And I'll put it back into the student preview mode. As I'd indicated, occasionally we have issues with internet connections, but luckily, whenever I go back and play the video, I think we only lost about 1 minute or so. I had to double check with my audio. I had unmuted it and then turned it back down and back up, and that's why I wanted to make sure that you guys could hear me. So from this point, now let's start with looking at areas of the syllabus. Here is the syllabus for the course itinerary, which we looked at, the course speech schedule, which we'll get to. There's the checklist, and also entering the room, which I had to again because I lost connection. Here's the syllabus. Again, the syllabus as how you see it. And don't get freaked out by the fact that it's 6 pages, but I think it's really important that you understand everything that's going to be going on in this course. As you can see, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the 1 to 3 window, live on Blackboard. We'll meet virtually online, but I do this the same way as if I were in the classroom. Live instead of something where you're just putting PowerPoints up on the screen. I like the idea of making this into a traditional program or broadcast, so to speak. But I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week in the 1 to 3 window. But here you can see, and you can access all of this at your leisure, what the learning goals, course content are, the grading policies and procedures, the university policies. And right here is something that's very important for all of you to understand and remember. You'll notice that you've got a link to the instructor website. You've got a link to me on Twitter. You don't have to follow me on Twitter. I know most of you are Instagram, TikTok folks, Snapchat, but for all of my classes, I'll usually send out some reminders on Twitter in addition to online courses like this being on Blackboard. But for all of you, remember this address: electronic submission of assignments. When you're sending me videos of your speeches, you're going to be sending the links to my Yahoo address, profjamesreppert@yahoo.com. And I do say that intentionally, profjamesreppert@yahoo.com. There is no magic formula for academic success in this or any college course. Intellectual curiosity matters. Not being satisfied with mediocrity means taking additional time to rewrite or analytically hone assignments. However, that is only the beginning. Expanding one's knowledge of the subject matter in any field is a lifelong process. Extensive interactive links for assignments can enhance such dynamism. Limitless research possibilities allow each student to pursue their academic potential. This type of work ethic is more conducive to long-term professional achievement. And here are some of the things informally that we're going to be looking at. Impromptu speaking, of course, would be you talking to your friends or talking to family members. You're not walking around with a cue card. You're not walking around with a teleprompter. Hi, Mom, how are you? But how you can become a more effective impromptu speaker. In this course, extemporaneous speaking is really important because I want you to come across in a natural way as much as possible, where you're being extemporaneous because from that, the conversational style is going to flow. Things like eye contact, vocalics, grammar, we'll get into all of those later. But a vocalic basically is issues with grammar, like, you know, kinda, wanna, gonna, I mean. Once you become aware of the way in which you speak and you're watching yourself, where do those issues come? I don't say errors, but where do those issues come? And how can you eliminate them? Constructive criticism of peers, constructive criticism of yourself, but I mean constructive in a positive way. Usually, negative constructive criticism is only going to come when someone has not practiced as much as he or she could have. There's always a way to improve. And some of our teaching strategies, the student assessment, but here, under student assignments, various public speaking research, writing, and delivery modes. 4 speeches, a speech critique, class participation. All graded speech outlines are going to be produced on Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides, or Canva. Now, later on, we'll talk about how you can incorporate your face into these presentations because it's not all that hard. And you'll see at least 4 examples today of demonstrative and informative speeches where people actually did that through technology with Microsoft PowerPoint, different types of technologies, including Loom, L-O-O-M. But you submit me that data by email. Now, most of the time, it's just going to be a link to your YouTube video. The speech critique, Microsoft Word, is also going to be submitted by email. And then we get into the major graded presentations for this class. So let's talk about them. You've got 4 major graded speeches over the next month. Demonstrative, Wednesday and Thursday of next week. Informative, Wednesday and Thursday of the 3rd week. Persuasive speech, Wednesday and Thursday of the 4th week. And then the final 2 days of class during the 5th week, the 28th and 29th of June, is the wildcard speech, where you can talk about anything you want. Then we have a self-evaluation speech critique, which you'll send to my Yahoo address the last day of class. And that is a realistic appraisal of personal improvement during the course in terms of content, delivery, and visuals. And then we also have class participation, which is 10 points, an individual effort to forward trenchant analyses of course issues and assist peers with constructive criticism of assignments. So each of the 4 major graded speeches are worth 20 points. The self-evaluation speech critique is worth 10, class participation 10, for a total of 100 points during the first summer session. So now from this point, let's go ahead and move on to a different area. You've got 4 major graded presentations during the term. Demonstrative speeches are going to begin on Wednesday of next week. As of last night, I took all of the people in this class on Campus Connect and I broke you down into 2 different days on which you'll be giving your speeches. Let's go to that right now. We'll return to Blackboard, still in the student preview mode. All of this is available for you to examine. At this point, just go back to course syllabus and click on course speech schedule. This may have to be updated because people can still add the course up until I think the end of the day tomorrow. But look for your names. As of right now, I have 11 people who are going to be speaking on day 1, which is for demonstrative, persuasive, informative, and wildcard. Those of you who are on day 1, your presentations are always going to be due on a Wednesday. So for those names that you see, and it might vary, so I'm not going to call you out by name right now because those of you who are right at the end of that list, you might get bumped down into day 2, so there's a roughly equal balance. But most of the time, that's going to be a good indicator as to when you're going to practice and prepare your materials and send them to my Yahoo address. So again, day 1, demonstrative begins Wednesday, June 7th. Persuasive is June 21st. Informative, June 14th. Wildcard, June 28th. Now, those of you on the bottom for day 2, it'll always be a Thursday. Day 1 are Wednesdays. Day 2 will be each Thursday. Demonstrative, June 8. Informative, June 15. Persuasive, June 22. Wildcard, June 29. The reason I do this, guys, I want you to get into a normal rhythm, how you're going to get your materials together. So for those of you who are on day 1, you've got 6 days to prepare your demonstrative speeches. Those of you who are going to be the second day, actually it's exactly 1 week from today for demonstrative, and then 1 week from tomorrow for the second day, which I think is pretty fair, because as I'd indicated before, I took my basic public speaking course during the summer, and my schedule was pretty much like this, other than the fact it was early in the morning, 5 days a week, rather than a virtual course online 4 days a week. Now, when you're at this area, instructor information, you'll notice there's a link to the SAU Mass Communication website. What I want to do now is to show you what happens when you click on that link. I think for the summer, it's probably a good idea for all of you to bookmark the website so you can see a lot of the projects that have been done in previous years. Let me go to the website right now and show you what it looks like. And again, I try to do this like a television program so you know exactly how to access information. And as long as the internet accommodates us and doesn't knock me off the air, we should be fine. When you click on that link at the website, and it's also on the syllabus, this is what you find. Scroll down and you'll see my shining face and my social media imprint on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And this is set up for mass communication students who are majoring in mass media. Most of the work that they do is posted on my website. And if you're coming to Southern Arkansas University, you're interested in becoming a mass communication major with an emphasis in mass media or potentially other new areas, then just let me know at the end of the term. But we'll scroll all the way down. One of the anomalies of Google Slides websites is that occasionally some of the icons don't show up, which is very frustrating for me because I'm a perfectionist where you see the PDF icon, but you scroll down all the way, and eventually, under Mass Media Internship, there is the Introduction to Public Speaking window. And for those of you who are students at Southern Arkansas University, you're more than welcome each spring to take my advanced public speaking course. We just got done with it a few weeks ago in the month of May for spring 2023. But when you're at the website right here for Introduction to Public Speaking, if you ever want to see the syllabus, the checklist, some course examples during the pandemic, YouTube links from spring 2020, the course itinerary for the first summer session 2023, the course speech schedule, which is also available on Blackboard. But now, here are representative examples of demonstrative speech materials. And these are in alphabetical order. So we'll move from demonstrative down to a project that we used to do for this class, but don't anymore, group discussions. As you can imagine, doing group discussion is much more convenient when you're meeting in person rather than online. Here are tons of informative speech materials. Most of these were produced in either Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Slides. I'll show you how we've been doing it since the pandemic online with video materials incorporated into Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint, or Canva. Here are persuasive speech materials and wildcard materials. Dozens and dozens of examples. And here you've got video clips of me. These are actually Blackboard videos from last summer when I taught the course. For some reason, Google is not letting me play them, but that shows you that I try to be as thorough and specific as possible in maximizing your efficiency in the long term as researchers, first and foremost, and taking that research ability and becoming a quality public speaker. So the next thing that I want to do is to return to Blackboard and show you a couple more items before we get into video examples, at least today, of demonstrative and informative speeches. Let's return to Blackboard in the student preview mode. As you can see, we're still in the area with a link to the website, my contact information. Come back down to the syllabus, and here is what we're going to be talking about on Friday. This is a checklist for the SAU speech critique. 21 different areas in 3 categories: content, delivery, and visuals. I'm going to be using this as an unofficial checklist whenever I'm posting your grades during the summer. Content in terms of research, organization, introduction, main supporting points, conclusion, fairness, analysis, with delivery, extemporaneous quality, conversational style, eye contact, articulation, enunciation, vocal variety, nonverbal cues, and persona. And then for visuals, design, font color shading, spelling, grammar, text image balance, interactivity, storytelling, and aesthetics. That's going to take up our class period on Friday, but I just wanted you to know that it's available for you to examine, as well as the course itinerary, which we have already looked at. You've got the course speech schedule, which we've already looked at, which may potentially change. But as you can see on the bottom, keep me appraised regularly so I may assist during your respective speech preparation processes. And I always like to say thanks. But let's go back to the syllabus. For our benefit today, the most important thing is to scroll down to the assignments, because 1 week from today, we're going to start with the demonstrative speeches. So let's go down to this particular area and focus here for the time being. Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides or Canva, 6 slides minimum, internet data, videos, and I'll talk about that over the next few class periods. Length 4 to 6 minutes. A demonstrative speech is basically a how-to. All different kinds of projects we'll be looking at over the next few days. But what does a demonstrative speech look like in my class? The next area that we're going to be going to this afternoon is my YouTube channel. And I'm going to go to my YouTube channel for a particular reason. I have video clips that I want to show you, but this link is available on the website. So this is what my YouTube channel looks like. When you're here, you can go down and see all of the stuff that's on here. A lot of stuff we've done in the old days with broadcast journalism. I save everything. But find this playlist: radio, TV, speech, and media materials. Now from here, you'll notice it opens up in a different window. When you start to scroll down, you can see I've been a professor for quite a long time. But when we get to 2020, and we had to immediately shift in March of 2020 during the pandemic in midstream, where people who were at first being in a classroom, my night speech course, they had to immediately transition. So here you've got all different kinds of representative samples of speeches over the past couple of years. I've gotten to the point now with the basic public speaking class, I only teach it. during the first summer session. Occasionally, when there's an overload in the fall or the spring, primarily I only teach it during the summer, even though for my academic career, I've taught it for a long period of time. Here you can see all different kinds of presentations and what we did last summer with all of our public speaking sessions on Blackboard that I downloaded and posted on my YouTube channel. But for your benefit, what we're going to be looking at today and some tomorrow are primarily going to be coming from this list. So the first thing that I want to do with playing video clips, with a demonstrative speech basically being a how-to, in chronological order, how to do something. We used a technology called Loom, L-O-O-M, where you can take your webcam and put it right into your slides. Some of you have probably experimented with this. Now, some of you may not be able to do it. We'll talk about all of that later. But this is a representative example of a demonstrative speech that was done in this course during the fall intersession of 2020. This was done during the pandemic, but you'll notice the individual who gives this particular presentation, it's the first of two, dealing with cooking. Notice that she inserts her webcam into her slides. So she's looking at her slides and then talking about her presentation. You'll get comfortable with it in time, but of course, if you are in an online speech course, ideally, it would be nice to see your face. Occasionally, there's someone who's using an older Chromebook and don't necessarily have the technology with a webcam, but most of the time, we're going to see you present your speech. This is Beth, and she's giving a cooking presentation. The fall intersession, by the way, was in December of 2020. So guys, here is the first presentation that you're going to see. And I'll make it full screen in just a moment. Her face will pop up, I believe, on the bottom right-hand portion of the screen. And as you can see, artificial intelligence has actually broken this down into chapters. I didn't do this, but AI has broken it down into an introduction, egg custard pie, history, description, step 1 ingredients, step 2 crust, a lot of time on the crust, step 4 bake, conclusion. Now again, sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. AI, we're basically at their mercy for the time being. So this is going to be very similar to what we do on graded speech days. Your presentations are going to be played in full during class, which is why those 8 class sessions for demonstrative, informative, persuasive, and wildcard presentations run a little bit longer, because I want to chronicle all of the stuff that you do in real time. Here is how to bake an egg custard pie from Beth Hervey, Fall Intersession 2020. Here we go, and I'll make it full screen.
Hi everyone, my name is Beth Hervey. I am a history education major. This is my second year at SAU. Very excited to be taking this year's fall intersession course. There's definitely a lot that you can learn from projecting yourself within public speaking, and I'm very excited for this course. Today, for my demonstrative speech, I'm going to be talking about how to bake a custard egg pie. This pie, called the egg custard pie, has been a staple within my family for many, many years. It is often not the most popular. There's not too many people that I've met throughout my time within college and within high school that have had an egg custard pie or even made one. So whenever I show up with it to events and Friendsgiving and things, people are always very shocked and very pleasantly surprised by it. It's been a staple, like I said, within my family always growing up, and I actually remember it as one of the very first things that I ever learned to bake and ever worked up the courage to be around an oven for, because I had a horrible fear about ovens whenever I was little. So of course, because I'm a history major, I had to add in the history of the egg custard pie, just a little bit. I'm not going to go too overboard. But the Romans were actually the first group known to start an understanding of the egg as a use of a solidifying agent and a binding agent. So very revolutionary, something other than flour that we use to thicken things and make it light and fluffy and just delicious. Custards were used to fill pastries and tarts, which were smaller, but then they grew into larger filling for pies. Within Europe and Asia, there have been recipes such as the egg custard pie dating back to the Middle Ages. So this has been around for a while, and obviously it's good, so or else it wouldn't be around for so long. Thus leading us to the delicious egg custard pie that we have today. So this is titled The Ease Within the Beginning because there's so little ingredients within an egg custard pie. It makes it very easy and there's not much baking time. Overall, it's very simple compared to many pies such as the chocolate pie or a lemon meringue pie. Very delicious, but often they take a lot of time and a lot of different ingredients. And one thing wrong can mess up the whole thing. Whereas an egg custard pie is much easier. It's much more simple and very good for beginner bakers. So, the recipe. This recipe that I have here on the right is actually, I had my mother send it to me from back home. Obviously, you can see that it's been used a lot. There's a lot of stains, a lot of junk on it because we've been using it for many, many generations. And so the one that we're going to be using today is egg custard pie at the bottom. You see it has not very many ingredients, and the directions aren't that long. So yet again, another example of how simple an egg custard pie is to make. So going on to the ingredients that we were saying, there's 5 main ingredients that are necessary. We have milk, eggs, sugar, nutmeg, and a pie crust. You can add vanilla extract. My family's never been super huge into it. It's never been something that was exactly required, like we had to have it, but some people really like it. Sometimes it gives it a really good flavor to add to it. Either way, that is optional. Going on to step 1. The easiest way to start out with any sort of baking is to set out all of your ingredients to begin with. For one, this lets you know that if you're missing something, you need to go and get it beforehand, or maybe you shouldn't even start at all because you can get it the next time you go to the store. It also makes sure that you're not scrambling around during the baking process because sometimes you can get a little bit hectic, you might break things. So when you have everything perfectly lined out, it really makes things just easier for you overall and it makes the process much quicker. And overall, setting everything else just gives you a really nice sense of preparation, which I feel like everyone needs and wants in their life. So, moving on to step 2. If you're using a store-bought pie crust, which is what most people do, it's a lot cheaper and not necessarily cheaper, but it's a lot faster a lot of times. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to need to set it out at room temperature. When pie crusts sit in the fridge or come straight from the store, they're a lot of times hard. They're really hard to manipulate. And whenever they go in like that, a lot of times you're having to rip them to even get them to lay flat in the pan. And it also just doesn't give you quite as good of a flaky and buttery flavor unless you let it sit out. So once the crust is at room temperature, place it in the pie dish, pat it down nice and good. Note that a deep dish pan, in my opinion, is much better for a egg custard pie because it's going to be a very liquidy mixture until it gets in the oven and it actually solidifies from the eggs. So with that, if you have it in a very thin pan, it's much easier to slosh around versus a deep dish pan. It's much easier to handle. So then what we're going to do with the crust is we are going to take our pointer finger and our thumb finger, put them about an inch apart, on right hand or left hand, it depends on if you're right or left-handed. And then you're going to take your thumb from your other hand and you're going to push them together like this and make V shapes. You can see a good example over here on the right. It's very common, probably the most simple and the most common. And it just really keeps, especially for egg custard, it keeps everything in. If you do slosh, you're much more likely to keep it in because you have all those sides around. I always say that it looks like a sunflower. It's just very pretty, very easy. So going on to step 2, you're going to need to take 3 eggs, whisk them together until foamy. It's always good to whisk your eggs in its own separate thing. For us, we have our own chickens, so you really need to check the eggs before you start putting them into other things. So you put them in a little thing, whisk them together until they're foamy, as the recipe says. And then you're going to need to add 3/4 a cup of sugar, which honestly is not that much sugar compared to a lot of other pies, and whisk until that's mixed. Doesn't take much time at all. This would also be the time to add some vanilla extract if you want. It's all completely up to you. After that, you need to add 2 cups of milk and then stir it all together. You would pour that into your pie crust in the pan that we made earlier, and then sprinkle it with nutmeg. And compared to other pies, that is very simple. And so, going on to step 4, you're going to need to preheat your oven to 425 beforehand, which is a pretty high temperature. So I would recommend getting a pie crust covering, which you can see in the top right corner, to help protect the outer crust in this high temperature. And you're just going to need to put it in there for 25 minutes, which is honestly pretty short for a pie. Sometimes things such as pumpkin pie take well over an hour. So 25 minutes, pull it out, let it cool, and it is ready to serve. So, in conclusion, I hope that this encourages you to making a custard pie the next time you're needing any sort of something sweet or any sort of dessert to bring somewhere. It's very simple. You see, 25 minutes, perfect amount of time for you to get ready while it's in the oven, and it's just an overall delicious dish. Even though some people are often skeptical because egg custard sometimes doesn't sound the most appealing. It's very delicious, very not overbearing, and just a wonderful dessert. And it will definitely be a showstopper if you bring it somewhere. So I hope you enjoyed how to make an egg custard pie. I hope that you go out and make your own. And once again, my name is Beth Hervey, and have a great day.
Notice the way that she wraps up the presentation. She's got her timer on the bottom of the screen. She spoke for 7 minutes and 57 seconds, keeping in mind that for all of you guys, the time limit is actually 4 to 6 minutes for a demonstrative speech. But if you feel like you want to go a little bit longer, that's not a problem. If I mute her audio and just go back to a particular point in the presentation and let it play, this is something that all of you should experiment with. Many of you have been student athletes. Video playback is very important for all of you to improve. And as a media person, I strongly believe the same thing. Watch yourselves over and over again. You do that with Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat before you post anything online. Same thing here. How does Beth come across with the audio down? She comes across as someone who's practiced, someone who's extemporaneous. And by the way, you don't necessarily have to take your webcam with Loom and put it in the bottom left-hand portion of the screen. You could put it up here in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. But there's all different kinds of technologies available for you to incorporate your webcam into your slides. It's just a matter of what works best for you. And I'll be talking about this next week. But a demonstrative speech, as we come back to me for just a moment, a demonstrative speech is basically a how-to. My focus today is to show you 2 examples of demonstrative speeches and then 2 informative speeches, and then come back tomorrow on Thursday with 2 persuasive, 2 wild card, but just to give you a flavor or a feel of what it's going to be like for you. You may be in a position where you're recording like me and you've got some kind of video off to the side and you can't necessarily incorporate a webcam into your slides. Don't worry about that right now. All I want to do today is to let you visualize what it's been like with me teaching online public speaking courses, in addition to quality aesthetics with the visuals. And you notice she took a lot of time to put together quality slides, but she found a place to put the webcam. Her natural personality comes through. Did she have a couple too many gonas or ums as vocalics? Yes. But this is the first of 4 major graded presentations. The second demonstrative speech I want to show you comes from spring of 2021. And this is a topic on teaching your dog a new trick, keeping in mind that what I'm doing right now is the reason why our graded speech days run a little bit longer, probably close to 2 hours with as many people in this class as there are. I want every minute of your presentations to be shown to your peers. Here is the second demonstrative speech of the day. And I'm going to show you in this particular presentation how you can also check your language to make certain that for the most part, you're speaking in complete sentences. So what I can do here is to check the closed captioning and put that on and go ahead and play this particular presentation in its entirety. Again, it's a little bit longer, but that's okay. It gives you an idea as to how you can teach your dog a new trick. Another example of a demonstrative speech from 2 years ago.
Hello, my name is Taylor Ivy, and this is my demonstrative speech for Introduction to Public Speaking. And I will be showing you how to teach your dog a new trick. So this is Rowan, my 1-year-old dog, and I have been training him since he was about 8 weeks old, and he will be helping us show you and explain how to teach your dog a new trick. So teaching tricks is not just for puppies, although sometimes it's easier because they are more food motivated or toy motivated. But also, if you think about it, older dogs have longer attention spans and puppies have very short attention spans. So it's harder for them to keep concentrated when you are trying to teach them new tricks, even though they are more food motivated. And you always start off with the basics first. You always want to teach them how to sit first, then lay down, then stay. And the last two, load up and back, are just my personal basics for Rowan, because when he was a puppy, I would take him to work every single day to get him acquainted with the vet office. And if I did not have a blanket over the seat before he jumped in there, he would get my truck all muddy from the grass and stuff that he would run through. So I had to teach him, give him a cue as to when I wanted him to load up into the truck. And that was the perfect way. Also, he would sometimes be in my seat instead of his seat that he was supposed to be in. So I taught him how to back up pretty much. And even if he's on the ground, he knows that that's gives me space. So these are my basics. It might change for you, but sit, lay down, and stay are the pretty much basics that pretty much all dogs need to know for basic life. And these are so important for, one, my example of Rowan loading up in the truck, also for going to the vet clinic. In this video, I have me trimming Rowan's nails at my work, which is at the vet clinic. And a lot of dogs are very stressed out when they come to the vet clinic. But if they just know a few tricks, or just, it'll calm them down so much and give us, it's not only good for us, for the dogs to know some tricks, but it's also good for them. It keeps them calmer and they're more comfortable around us if they do. And they need to be acquainted with people also. But tricks are the most important. And when I pushed on his side just a second ago, that was my cue that I used to teach him how to lay down and roll over. And it just helps him relax on the side, so I get more access to his paws when he lays over. And before we start, I want to tell y'all a few things that you need to remember. You need to be aware of your body language. So if you walk towards your dog and you put most of your body pressure, not physically, but when you walk towards them and you go towards them, just that's it. And your dog sits down because all of his body weight goes to his back end, and it causes him to sit down. That's the basic of that's a body language basic on how to get your dog to sit down on cue. So you would start by having him, putting your body weight towards him, having him sit, and then treating him for that. And then later you would add in a voice command. And you have to be very calm and keep very patient, because sometimes it takes days for dogs to learn tricks. Some dogs, depending on the trick, it might take them 30 minutes to an hour. But you never know. Your dog may take a few days, and you might do short intervals each day to get him to pay attention more if he has a shorter attention span than some dogs. Rowan, it will take me an hour to teach him the basics of a new trick, but it'll take over a few days for him to understand the voice command that goes with that trick. And each time your dog does a small step in the right direction, you want to reward them. For example, like I said, a treat or a toy for puppies, and whatever your older dog likes the best, you would use that. So that also goes with positive reinforcement. So you would use a treat or a toy. Those are really good tools for positive reinforcement. And you always want to reward a step in the right direction, like I said. First, they'll do small steps, or even you have to get them to do it yourself. But once you reward them, they'll start figuring out, if I do this, when they do this body position, then I get a treat, or I get to play with my toy. They'll learn that, and then they'll learn, hey, this means this, and I get it rewarded. It's a good thing. So after a while, they start understanding better, and you don't have to direct them near as much to get them to do the trick. So you need to expect a little bit more and more as you go, but still be patient with it because some dogs take a little bit longer. This is Rowan explaining to us. This is his favorite toy on the floor, and these are his favorite treats, and those are the ones I usually use. If you don't have treats, you can use kibble, little pieces of their food, especially if they're really food motivated. That works perfectly. And like I was saying, you need to start small. Don't expect very much because they don't know it yet. So you want to direct them a lot at first. And then slowly, very slowly, depending on their learning, how good they learn and how good they pick up on stuff, you will start expecting more and directing less. And take good breaks in between when he or she does the trick, or even makes a good improvement with the trick. And after they got a good understanding of the body movement that you're using to get them to do something, add a voice command in there. So if you're teaching them how to sit and you get them to sit on their butt, and they know that every single time they do it, really easy when you do the body movement, then you start adding the word sit in there. So when they sit, you say, good boy, sit, and then give them a treat after you say it, so that they know that's what that means. It's not just the body movement. When they say that, I should sit, and then I get a reward for it. This is Rowan showing us how he learned to lay down. So I will take my hand, put it in front of his face, then put my hand flat on the ground. That is showing him how to lay down. And it's the body movement that I use to teach him how to lay down. And then for another example, this is how I taught him to shake. I would just grab his paw, shake it, say good boy, then give him the treat. And all different tricks have these little things that will slowly incorporate the tricks so that they start understanding and use those cues, either body movements or verbal cues, to do that trick. But you always want to reward them in a little step in the right direction, and after a while, this is how Rowan tries to shake now. So he knows that he gets a treat whenever he shakes my hand, so he wants to shake my hand all the time. So depending on the trick, especially if your dog's food motivated, if he or she learns the trick, they will always want to do that trick to get food. And that's the mindset that you want them to have about that trick. And thank you for watching. This is my demonstrative speech for Introduction to Public Speaking. Thank you.
Now, You can imagine how much time and effort it takes to incorporate personal videos into slides. But that's why I show you so many examples during the 5 weeks of this course. Notice what she does there at the end where she's playing video, where she's talking to the dog. Now I have the audio muted so I can speak over it, but once we get into the last part of the speech and she's got videos that she sets up and plays right there, it just makes the presentation that much more professional. Whether you're using Microsoft PowerPoint, whether you're using Google Slides, I won't go to the Loom, Loom website today, but I really think you need to practice right now getting into a PowerPoint, getting into a Google Slides, and trying to determine where you can put your webcam so we can see you. And go back and watch this video today of demonstrative and informative examples. Go back and watch tomorrow's video with persuasive wildcard examples. You're not probably going to be speaking this long. These presentations are a little bit longer than usual. Here we have the last bit of video. We'll bring the bit audio back up.
Shakes my hand, so he wants to shake my hand all the time.
But it just adds such a professional touch to your overall presentations. Again, we'll be looking at the first half of the syllabus today, focusing on demonstrative and informative speeches, tomorrow with persuasive and wildcard. But let's go back for just a moment to the student preview mode of Blackboard. With a reminder of our time setup. Your length is going to be 4 to 6 minutes. If you, like our first two speakers, and the 4 that we have today, speak a little bit longer, that's okay. But most of the time in my classes, if you're around the 5-minute mark for a speech, 5 to 6 minutes, you're probably going to be fine with roughly about 6 slides. You may incorporate interactivity, and that's why I say internet data or videos, because some people will add internet data. Some people will put in video clips, as you saw, from their own material, or they may play videos from outside sources. All of that is acceptable. So demonstrative is a process, how something works, how something operates, as you saw first of all with the pie, and second with the dog tricks. Most of the time it is going to be in a chronological order from beginning to end. And then we get into informing, which is going to be a little bit more serious in nature. The informative presentations will begin in a couple of weeks. The first one that you are going to see today, you'll see me in just a moment as I get the first of the demonstrative presentations off the screen on my area. The first informative speech that you're going to see today is from Finley Blair. She was a member of the tennis team at SAU. She was one of my students. She was a mass communication major with an emphasis in mass media. She received a scholarship last year to enter the master's program at the George W. Bush School at Texas A&M University. Very smart, very thoughtful, especially when it comes to her presentations. And what you're going to see from Finley is her informative speech on emotional intelligence. Again, the 4 presentations today are a little bit longer than normal, but it's okay because it gives you an idea as to how you can prepare your own materials. Here is Finley, and I should indicate if you want to go to a website called SlidesGo to incorporate more creative data into your slides in terms of aesthetics, that's acceptable. But this is Finley, who is originally from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and like I said, she is back home in Texas to attend graduate school at Texas A&M, and this is Finley's presentation on emotional intelligence. This is informing.
Hello everybody, my name is Finley Blair, and today I will be talking to you about emotional intelligence. So first, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence refers to the term defined as the ability to understand, use and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. In other words, emotional intelligence is basically how well I handle my emotions in my daily life. What does that mean? So, emotional intelligence is defined by four specific characteristics. These characteristics are self management, self awareness, social awareness, and relationship management. So, I'm going to go through all four of these and kind of explain what those specifically are. Self management refers to the ability to control one's emotions and how they affect oneself. Refusing to act impulsively on emotions and instead stay thoughtful, managing one's feelings and behaviors in healthy ways, and the willingness to be able to adapt. So basically, what this means is being in control of your emotions, being able to control how you react to specific things, and being thoughtful and making sure we're not reacting impulsively. Self-awareness refers to the ability to properly assess oneself in relation to how they are perceived from the outside, but also being able to assess oneself internally, evaluating strengths, weaknesses, and ways to better oneself. So what this means is being aware of how we do react to our emotions, usually how we come off to other people, and making sure that we are doing our best to be like in connection with our emotions, if that makes sense. And when we connect with them, we are able to act thoughtfully on our emotions as well. Social awareness refers to being able to properly assess certain situations outside of ourselves and demonstrating empathy and working well with others, while relationship management refers to the ability to develop and maintain good, healthy relationships based on our emotions and making sure our emotions don't hinder us from doing that. Our next question is who? So who coined this phrase emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence was originally coined by Peter Salovey and John Mayer, who were two researchers that kind of discovered it, came up with it, and ended up writing about it in a journal called Imagination, Cognition, and Personality in 1990. But this phrase was popularized by Dan Goleman, who wrote about it in his famous novel called Emotional Intelligence. Our next question is where? Where can emotional intelligence be displayed? And emotional intelligence is displayed in all aspects of life, including school and the workplace, relationships, and social situations. So my experience and when I've had to kind of display emotional intelligence is at my job. I work at a gym as a customer service representative. And in doing that, my job is basically to help any customer that comes in, any member. I'm supposed to be able to answer questions, help them with their problems, billing, solve any issues that they may have in a way that encourages them to want to keep coming back and makes them feel cared about. So a lot of times people will come in very, very upset about, let's say they got billed, they don't know why they got billed, they're getting billed more than they thought they were getting billed, or they want to cancel their membership, and we have specific policies that they don't agree with, they don't want to follow our policies, and they're very upset. So sometimes it can be easy to take someone else's anger and take it personal and kind of want to react on that. But I just have to make sure that I stay very calm, understand that it's not personal, it's them, it's more about them than it is about me. And once I'm able to understand that, I'm able to kind of check myself and make sure that I don't react impulsively and make sure that I just focus on solving the problem and staying very thoughtful and the whole time just being very focused and understanding the goal at hand.
As I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now, wish me luck, Grammarly has again been a lifesaver with my application in helping me write my personal statement and CV. Grammarly is your
That's a first. Usually we don't have our presentation broken up by advertisements, but Finley's presentation has a couple of hundred views. And I will say this, for those of you who are just out of high school and going to college, I'll click on skip ads in just a minute. I subscribe to Grammarly. It's a great tool to have. Let's move back to Finley and put it in closed captioning as well.
And essential for navigating in the world for a variety of reasons. But firstly, emotional intelligence affects people and their physical and mental health and their workplace and even their relationships. So it's important to develop proper emotional intelligence in order to have a higher quality of life. When one is able to properly control and manage their emotions, they are able to adapt through the ups and downs life throws at us and continue to solve problems and build relationships. Specifically, emotional intelligence affects our mental health because usually if you don't have high emotional intelligence, you are less likely to be able to handle stress in healthy ways. And high level of stress can lead to things like depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts, which is extremely, extremely detrimental for our mental health. Another thing it affects is our physical health. Same thing, emotional intelligence, if you don't have it, you are more likely to be kind of highly affected by stress and not handle stress very well. And the inability to be able to handle stress leads to heart disease, immune and metabolic dysfunction, and can lead to a hormonal imbalance, which is very bad for our body. Our next question is how? How do we develop emotional intelligence and how do we measure our emotional intelligence? So I'm going to go through all 4 characteristics of emotional intelligence and kind of talk about how we can develop emotional intelligence in those aspects. So first, self-management. Learning to control impulse decisions and letting one's emotions have a large impact on our decision making. In addition, learn to process emotions in a healthy, non-damaging way. So basically, what we want to do is we want to learn to manage our emotions. We want to be in control of our emotions because our emotions are our emotions. We don't want our emotions to control us. We want to be in control of our emotions. And I know sometimes it can seem like you are out of control of your emotions, like you don't know what to do, you don't know how to handle, but what you can control is how you react on those emotions. So while you may not be able to control your emotions specifically, you can control your reaction, and making sure we keep that in mind and kind of focus on what we can change, what we can control is an extremely big factor in developing emotional intelligence. Our next thing is self-awareness. So self-awareness means learning to be able to manage stressful situations and being able to connect with our emotions and recognize how we usually respond and how we should respond. So when we are able to connect with our emotions and know that they are not outside of us, they are a part of us, we are able to better respond to situations in a more thoughtful manner, and we kind of are able to know ourselves better, which is extremely important in our quality of life and kind of building relationships with other people and knowing who we want to be around, who we don't, where we want to go, and things like that. So that's very important. So for social awareness, learning to recognize and interpret nonverbal cues others use to communicate, along with better assess body language and other nonverbal cues to better respond in social situations. So what this means is being able to communicate not just by words and being able to comprehend and understand communication, not just given by words, not just given like blatantly like this is this, but being able to understand things using kind of context clues and other things to understand what's going on around us. So this is extremely important, and being able to work with a team, being able to work with other people, because when you are able to have social awareness, you are able to better work with a team. People will, if you, let's say you want to be a manager or business owner, anything like that, people will be more likely to want to work with you as well, which is extremely important. And then relationship management is learning to use nonverbal communication and better navigate confrontation and see confrontation as an opportunity to grow, learn, and grow closer to others, and adopting healthy ways to relieve stress. So what this means is kind of sometimes in confrontation, we think we are right, we know we are right, and so we want to prove that to the other person. So we get into this argument about kind of like wanting to prove ourselves, but instead we should look at confrontation as a way to better understand another person's point of view. And instead of taking things personally and basically not wanting to understand another person's point of view because we feel like we are right, we should go more into confrontation as wanting to better understand and wanting to grow our relationship with that specific person. And how we measure our emotional intelligence is basically how well you are able to handle stressful situations and how much influence your emotions have over your decision making. So if your emotions have great impact, great influence on your decision making and how you navigate around the world, then you probably are not very emotionally intelligent. But if you are able to kind of be thoughtful and intentional with how you are responding to your emotions, then you are probably emotionally intelligent. But the thing to know is everyone has room to grow. Everyone has room to kind of be more emotionally intelligent. And so we just need to make sure that we are focusing on that, focusing on ways to better ourselves all the time. And that concludes my speech about emotional intelligence.
And by the way, one of the things you notice with Finley is not only is she incredibly smart, she's a member of the Honors College, graduated with honors. I'll take this off closed captioning for just a moment and mute the audio. Let's just go back. And again, artificial intelligence is creating all of these segments. But let's just pick this up in progress. With the audio down, you can always tell when someone has really practiced his or her speech. The extemporaneous ability just shines through. Notice that she has maybe a couple of vocalics, but her presentation is pretty smooth all the way through. And she's speaking far in advance of, at that time, I think we were going 5 to 7 minutes a couple of years ago, but she spoke for almost 10 minutes and was incredibly consistent in terms of the quality of her delivery, the quality of her content, and as you can see here, the quality of her visuals. So all of you need to make certain that you reach a level of comfort when you're practicing, so you're, as with our 3 speakers so far, very smooth with your overall delivery, because that's how, of course, in a class like this, people are going to identify with you. We have now reached our 4th and final speaker of the day. 2 demonstrative, and now our 2nd informative. This gentleman's name is Marek, M-A-R-E-C, and he's talking about something that a lot of people may not necessarily realize, such as emotional intelligence, a serious topic for an informative speech. He is discussing VARK, V-A-R-K, learning styles. I put the closed captioning on for the second half of the presentation by Finley, so in this case, we'll leave it off. Let's go ahead and put Marek up on the screen, and then I have a few other items that we'll get to at the end of class. But this is going to be our final video of the day that is informative. From the fall semester of 2020, Marek Barrett with VARK Learning Styles.
Hi, hello. My name is Marek Barrett, and this is my informative speech on VARK learning styles. So first of all, what is VARK? Well, VARK was a study that was done back in '92 by Neil D. Fleming and Colin E. Mills. It's basically about how your brain prefers to process and synthesize any new information that it receives. So there's 4 styles. There's visual, auditorial, reading and writing, and then kinesthetic. So let's break it down a little further. So first up is visual. Visual learners best understand any new information they're receiving through the use of images, maps, and graphic organizers, things like that. So an example would be you're in geography class and you see a map of Europe, and you can see France and Normandy and the Blitzkrieg line, and you're really retaining a lot of the information that's being delivered to you through that. Might be a visual learner. Another one would be you're headed to your 3 o'clock English class, and on the wall you see a poster of Edgar Allan Poe. It's got his name, his date of birth, when he died, perhaps a few works that he's notable for, and then maybe a quote or 2, and you really understand that and pick that up, even though it's all surface level. Next time you're in class, somebody asks you, hey, what do you know about Edgar Allan Poe? And you're able to fire off all that information. Might be a visual learner. There's auditorial. They best understand everything through listening and speaking. So this right here, me speaking to you, and if you're able to pick up on this, you might be an auditorial learner. But what's interesting, I think, more about it is that you're also, as somebody who is learning something, you pick up on speaking about it, because your brain has to take in the information first, and then you have to turn it into a word to project out into the world. And doing that action, you subconsciously understand it more. So if you ever find yourself reading a book and you sometimes say things aloud, that might be that kind of switch turning on help you understand it better. It's an auditorial thing. Then there's reading and writing. They learn best through words. And while I think previously I said whenever you read something, you read it aloud, you learn it a little bit more. Reading and writing is just, it's all about reading it and writing it, kind of the inverse a little. So say you're in Dr. Murphy's class and she is giving a lecture on Bismarck of Germany, and you best understand everything that's going on through your notes. Not even necessarily recalling the notes, but just simply the act of doing the notes. That is a very, very big reading and writing style. The other one would be something that maybe wouldn't come off so much as one that would really benefit from reading and writing, and that would be like something like fitness. The act of, say, doing a nutritional log and really understanding the exact makeup of, the macros of a cup of Greek yogurt, really understanding what's in there by simply writing it down on a log all the time whenever you're tracking your fitness gains and things like that, would be a style of reading and writing learning. And lastly, is kinesthetic. That is best learned through the tactile representations of information. That is doing whatever. So blue collar jobs is one of the big examples I can think of. And while there's a lot of skills within an electrician needs to know before they even get to the job site, there's a lot of things that you just have to pick up by doing. And the people who are naturals, whenever they first see somebody do it and they do it themselves, that would be indicative of a kinesthetic learner. Same thing with fitness. I can tell you, take weight, lift weight above your head, hold it there for 5 seconds, and then let it down and repeat until you can't do it anymore. Okay, sure. But what do you really learn from any of that? If you're not a kinesthetic learner, that is. But by doing it or watching somebody else do it, that would help you learn better. That would help you learn more. And so, learning styles can mix and match with one another. Just because you are a visual learner doesn't mean that you can't learn any other way. Of course not. You can learn in every single way. It's just ways that you're better at doing. So I'm personally a visual and kinesthetic learner. I need to see it happen. I need to do it myself. And then after that all occurs is whenever I truly pick something up. And so some things you really can't have that, right? History, I think, is probably one of the bigger ones. I can't reenact moments of history. Well, I guess I can, but I'm not necessarily going to learn better through that. But the aid that's behind the lecturer whenever they're giving the lecture, if they have one, that's how I best learn from that particular style. For me, just doing and seeing, that's how I learn. And you can be anything. You can be a reader who needs to read the information, and then you need to say it as you read it or after you read it, and that's how you best lock it in. That would be indicative of a auditory and reading and writing style learner. So why is this so important? Well, if you learn yours, you can save yourself a lot of time and a lot of things. I think the idea of college is a lot of times sitting in a classroom, listening to a lecture, and then taking notes on it. Sure. And some people are, that is how they learn. They learn based on those notes they take. However, what if you're more of a visual guy, or you're more of an auditorial person, or you need to do something to understand it? Then perhaps next time, if you feel like that you are a visual learner or you're an auditory learner, ask those questions. Regurgitate the information as you're learning it to your professor and try to get some sort of like a dialogue or a conversation going that helps you learn that. And also, I'm not saying don't take notes, right? You probably should take at least some notes to have something to recall back on. But if that's not how you're learning the best, then don't only focus on that within your class. Maybe try to take the PowerPoint, ask and see if you can see the PowerPoint, and you can study off that for your next exam. Things like that. And in the same way, you can use that to help other people. So say you are, you need to tutor somebody, your friend, in something that you're doing, and you're telling them, okay, this is how you do the math problem. It's like this. Whenever you see this number or this sign, then this is what you do. And they're not really getting it. Maybe try out different styles. Maybe they're a kinesthetic learner. Maybe they have to do the problem with you or themselves or alongside you, however, to truly, truly pick up the information. I think if you were to understand your style figure it out earlier within your academic career or even your professional career or outside of whatever else, I think that can really help you save some time and better understand what you're learning. So, anyways, that's VARC. Thanks for listening to me, and have a great night as I learn how to stop this.
Now, from each of the 4 people that you've seen today, they all ran a little bit longer, which is fine, but in your case, that's not a requirement, obviously. Let's mute Merrick's audio and go back to reading and writing, and as we've done with everyone, play a little bit of this with the audio down. Take a look at the quality of the graphics from all of the presentations today when you go back and watch today's recording session once it's posted on Blackboard. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. You can always tell how much people have prepared by the quality of their graphics. And have you seen with the 2 informative presentations, first from Finley with emotional intelligence, now from Merrick with VARC learning styles, how much they have practiced their delivery. Is it going to be perfect? No. But for the most part, they're going to be looking in the direction of the webcam, look off toward their notes, and trying to make a conscious effort to remain extemporaneous and conversational throughout. It's not going to be perfect. There are going to be some issues, but for the most part, what you have seen are 4 representative examples of the first 2 projects of the 4 that we'll be producing during the summer term. And these 19 class periods go by very, very quickly. It won't seem like it's been 24 hours before we meet tomorrow afternoon live, or for those of you who are picking up the videos afterward. Let me show you a couple of items before we wrap up the proceedings for today. In case you ever want to check out my Twitter feed, this is what it looks like. Most of you are going to be using other platforms, but I like to use Twitter for this class and my others in mass media and mass communication. So as you can see, this was the tweet that I sent out for the course yesterday, a screenshot of the first page of the syllabus. And I'll be doing this later on, probably later today with the course itinerary, and be doing it during the term. But of course, all of this information is also available on Blackboard. But that here is a link to the syllabus. So in case you're ever checking out Twitter, it's not a requirement to follow me on Twitter. You can also see in the right-hand side as we're recording on Wednesday afternoon what is trending on social media, as are other platforms, but that's my Twitter feed. I also wanted to reiterate before we go back one more time to Blackboard and wrap things up for day 1, what my Yahoo website looks like. I'll joke and say Yahoo, but keep in mind, on the syllabus, whenever I say electronic submission of assignments, I want you to send stuff to my Yahoo address. This is what my Yahoo address looks like. This is the inbox. So you're going to be sending stuff here, which is profjamesreppert.sau@yahoo.com. That's the address you'll be sending it to. That's the link that's on the syllabus. But the reason I wanted to show this to you and chronicle for it in real time, on the left-hand side, you can see a speech link. Now, these are all of the materials that have been sent to me over the years for the basic public speaking course. On the right-hand side, you can see the dates: summer of 2022, the fall intersession of 2020, you've got spring 2022. There are tons of materials that are available here. And that's where you're going to be sending me links to YouTube, links to Loom, or something else that may be a requirement for the course. The last thing that I want to do today is to return to the student preview mode of Blackboard and show you one more time how you can access information. When you're here, you can click on the announcement. How to view recorded archives of the course. Find tools on your menu left side and click Class Collaborate Ultra. Once there, click 3 vertical lines on the black sessions bar to open a recordings playlist. So after I officially end the course today, all of you guys at some point later on can click on Tools, can go to Class Collaborate Ultra. Right now you would enter the room live for class, but go here, right here, the 3 vertical bars, that's the menu. Click on Recordings. Right now it's blank, but tomorrow I'll show you how you can access this, and I'll play a little bit of this during class. Why is this important? And I'm going to come back on camera for just a moment and go back. Don't ever forget, you guys on the demonstrative, informative, persuasive, wild card days, when those speeches start 1 week from today, day 1, 1 week from tomorrow, day 2 for persuasive, all the way through the term, you guys are the stars. As you've seen with these presentations, everything that you do that you send me is going to be played in class, which is why those 8 class sessions will run probably pretty close to 2 hours. And please make certain that you keep everything done on time, which is why we always work on a regular rotation. All of you know I've got 1 presentation to give every week, so you get into the habit of practicing. And even though these 4 speeches that you saw today from these individuals ran a little bit longer, if you're in the area of about 5 to 6 minutes, don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel or go overly long, unless that's something you feel comfortable with. Anything in the area of about 5 to 6 minutes for a course like this, realistically, that's going to be in the sweet spot. Let's go back to where we were on Blackboard. So from this point, the recordings area, just remember, click on homepage announcements. All of that information will be refreshed every day. Instructor information, a link to the website that I showed you, my business card. And then the instructor information is followed by the course syllabus, entering the room live, the checklist, which we'll talk about later. That'll be Friday. The course speech schedule is there available for you. It's also on my website. The course itinerary, which for this week, tomorrow we will conclude the syllabus with course requirements, part 2. And on Friday, we'll specifically look at the checklist, the speech critique, for effective content delivery and visuals. So Friday will be our only Friday of the term. And of course, the syllabus. Now let's scroll through this real quick and remind you of point allocations. As I told you at the beginning, don't let the fact that it's 6 minutes freak you out. This is what I wanted to show you. On page 4, there's a link to the website. There's a link to Twitter, electronic submission of assignments. Remember, you send everything to my Yahoo account. That's where I want you to send your projects. And then down here, for those projects, the demonstrative speech starts 1 week from today, 20 points. Informative speech, June 14th, 20 points. Persuasive speech, June 21st, 20 points. Wildcard speech, Wednesday, the next to last day of the course, 20 points. The self-evaluation speech critique, all of this we'll get to with a great deal of depth later on. And class participation, each worth 10 points, for a summer 1 total of 100 points. As we get ready to wrap up our first day, a friendly reminder. For a lot of you, doing a public speaking course is maybe not in your wheelhouse. You may feel a little bit nervous. I try to make the experience as painless as possible. For a lot of you who are watching these presentations, you always want to consider the fact that being online is a slightly different situation. So for instance, you're in my home right now. You're going to be in people's homes when you give those 4 major graded presentations. So the videos that you submit to me, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Bloom, we'll talk about that over the next couple of days. You want to make certain that what you send me is the best representation of the assignment. So you record everything. You're your own worst critic, but in a good way. How can I improve? And then work from there. Perfection is never going to be attainable realistically, but you can always strive to be a quality public speaker every day, even though it's not half full. You've seen me, those of you who are live, you can see me on a little video during class because my webcam is available. I always view in my courses the glass being half full. You've also noticed during presentations, I might have been doing this, looking down during the presentations. I'm not checking my email. I am checking to make certain that everything's in a particular order. But when you see those presentations from past years, I'm watching them as intently as you are, primarily because I'm trying to pick up on things. What makes this person an effective public speaker? What is it about their quality of content and delivery and visuals? It's not a surprise. You put time into it, you try to work on a regular schedule, and all of a sudden, you get to June 29th, which is the last of our 19 class sessions, and you realize that being your own worst critic in a constructive way is going to help. And watching all of these videos in real time and knowing that your work is going to be seen and chronicled on these course recordings, I think is a good way for all of you to continue to hone, H-O-N-E, your abilities during the term. And again, I'll reinforce this. I always view the glass as being half full, coffee stains and all. That's the way I view this course. I want all of you to succeed, which is one reason why I try to practice what I preach in terms of being conversational, likable, spontaneous, authoritative, coming across as someone who knows what he's talking about. And that's the way I want you to be for your presentations. You do that, and the grades pretty much take care of themselves. I'm not promising anything, but for the most part, if you're watching the course videos, you're practicing, you send me what is you believe your best efforts, you'll probably be fine. I've been down this road quite a bit. Like I said at the beginning, I've been a college professor for quite some time, and I know what works and I know what doesn't. And I look forward to working with you over now the 19 class sessions which comprise the summer term. So good luck. We will meet here every day at 1 o'clock to 3. You don't have to be here live, but watch the videos. They'll be available probably every day after class. Usually they're posted about an hour after I officially conclude. But I'll be happy to talk with you after class about anything that might be related to an assignment. So good luck during the first summer session. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking for the first summer session of 2023, that concludes the recording session for today.